the study of the 10 Sefirot with Rabash. We're going to read from chapter 4. Answers 87.
במלכות של ראש. שוב, עמוד 286, רפ"ו, לוח התשובות לעניינים, תשובה פ"ז.
So again, answer 87, please.
Here in Malchut of Guf, the surrounding light comes and rejects the screen. He lets us understand as if you remain in this way, you won't receive anymore. The thought of creation, which was to receive 100%, will never come to the end of its correction. As if he's saying that you're right, It turns out that it can no longer overcome now. Who rejects this force? The surrounding light. It's said that the Malchut of Guf, who lost the force to overcome, ascended to Rosh. In the Rosh, the force to overcome remained. There was no annulment there. On the contrary, there she received the force to bestow. But she receives once more this force that was in the Rosh of the degree, but cannot ask, wanting to receive in order to bestow like before. Her forces are weakened, is what he says. Hence, at the least, let me overcome the three phases. It turns out that we are speaking only about the guf that has weakened its forces, and the force of the clash of inner light and surrounding light, which is in the head of the degree. This force remains. What force? The first force. What is this first force? It is that which was in beginning with all the light, wanted the restriction, wanted to receive in order to bestow, and it remains this force. And this force remains in all the Roshes, which is, as they say, meaning who did this force pass through? Two. The third kind of reflected light is the reflected light that is set in Malchut of the Rosh. The third kind, again, is the reflected light that is set in the Malchut of the Rosh, which becomes there a source from which the lights and the vessels for the guf are poured and come. This remains permanently. This remains permanently, and they say that from here it's bestowed to the guf. This is as long as the surrounding light did not cancel this force below. But when the surrounding light cancels this force from below, the force is departed as well as the lights. 32, the third kind and the second kind is the same thing, only what? More discernments. Before he gave us discernments between reflected light, which is rejected, and the reflected light that clothes. Now the reflected light is clothing. There's also two discernments here. One that remains in the Rosh, and one Partzuf that expands below. It means that the third kind and the second kind, he only divides them to two discernments in potential. In practice, you're right. This allegory, maybe you all remember. Here there's a question. Why does the upper light, which comes in all 100% to the screen, The Malchut, which will be called receiving in order to receive, rejected it, does not want to receive it. And how much does he receive? As much as he wants. Who's the host, the Lord? The screen. We learn about this in Malchut of Guf, which only received a part in the internality. Let's say 20%. According to the allegory, what remains outside he does not want to receive? 80%? So the 80% come to Malchut of Guf, and he does cancel it. Who's more powerful? The light. Why? From above, he doesn't say that. So we can say that before he received, he can be the host, he can make calculations. To the extent in which he receives and to the extent in which he does not receive. And after he already received, he comes and tells him, receive more, and he's weak. Hence, the surrounding light overcomes. But there's an assumption also that in the Rosh, he didn't receive anything yet. He can't say, receive more. I once gave an allegory where a person who comes to some big happening, happy happening, and he's a respectable person. So according to his honor, well, do the blessing on the washing of the hands. So he says, you know, a piece of cake, a little drink, a piece of salted fish. I didn't do anything to eat yet. No, do it for the fish as well. But he's not doing anything. After he decided that he's going to eat a piece of cake, a little bit of a drink, when he received, they say, do it with me, do a meal with me as well. It turns out, when does the surrounding light that is received more? We received a little, or from the beginning, how is that order? They don't say, no, do it for the fish as well. Just as we see in the corporeal reality, it extends into spirituality. I also wanted to do the washing of the hands. He didn't want. Well, we can do the blessing of the washing of the hands. Only what? After we ask for it, in the end, what will you do? I said, yes, at the screen of the Guf rises to the screen of the Rosh. And it receives the forces once more. Before the fourth kind is reflected light that expands from Malchut of Rosh downward, extending and clothing the 10 Sefirot of direct light that expand with it. This reflected light is considered being mixed with the direct light. It is not distinguished as a garment and a vessel because it is of equal importance with the direct light. What's written here? The reflected light alone does not receive. When I say reflected light, it's only the intention. He receives from the desire to receive. And the reflected light is in order to bestow. In that case, we need to learn this reflected light is considered that it falls from the direct light. Then we're already talking about two things. From the vessel, which receives the light, with the intention in order to bestow, That's one. And two, the abundance itself. He tells us this reflected light is considered mixed with the abundance. What does he mean that it's mixed with the abundance? Is there no distinguishment of a vessel? That the importance of the vessel, meaning that he wants to bestow, he has a relationship with the light that bestows. And therefore, you can't distinguish here the kli, a matter of her coming from coarseness. Whereas, as we learn about the second partsuf, where the light departs already from the vessel, so it is discerned as a surrounding light for the vessel. What does that mean? The surrounding light is distinguished in the vessel. The reflected light he does not receive. Only what? There was a desire to receive. He received light with the intention in order to bestow. This intention he doesn't have now. This intention, that was prior to that, in order to bestow, if it still had that intention, the light would not depart. The light of the screen canceled this force, the force of rejection to reception. It turns out that now, to begin with, although she was in order to bestow, nevertheless, her root is a receiver. This is considered the fourth kind, where he says, one, reflected light that expands from Malchut of Rosh downward, extending and clothing the 10 Sefirot of direct light that expand with it. That's one. Now he adds. This has to do with the fourth kind. Now he's adding. This reflected light is considered, which reflected light? Of the goof is considered mixed with the direct light. It is not distinguished as a garment and a vessel, that he's the receiver, because it is of equal importance as far as the relationship in order to bestow with the direct light. But we can say that the light and the vessel are mixed in one another. The light is light and the vessel is the vessel. Only the relationship, the attitude, in order to bestow, is where they are similar. Whereas later, in Ab, he makes a comment that the light of Chokhmah comes in the vessel of Keter. Why doesn't the light of Keter come in the vessel of Keter? It is already distinguished that upon Keter he cannot aim in order to bestow. It's called that what she received, there is a recognition that to begin with, there was the matter of coarseness, only that she received a correction. And now this correction is lacking. Therefore, it is considered coarseness. Question, what is considered coarseness? The distinguishment of a vessel. Again, reflected light alone doesn't say a thing. Only who? The reflected light, he makes a rule. What a screen and coarseness. The desire to receive is the action. The reflected light is only the intention. Now, he says that the intention that's in order to bestow and the light is the bestower, there's an equal relationship. What is its importance? That it is no longer straight, direct. How can they say that it's not direct? Because he receives and he's the bestower. Only we need to talk about this form of relationship. Then what will we do? The expansion, the departure of the light. When the light is departed, there's a distinguishment of a vessel. Why? Why was the light departed? Since it can no longer aim. To begin with, that in the end, where does he come from? He is the desire to receive, and upon him now, the desire to bestow dwells upon him. Only now he doesn't have the force of the desire to bestow. If I'm in this force, the light would not depart. Hence they say there's a vessel, but where's the distinguishing of a vessel? The Ari wants to imply to us that the importance is equal. It is from mixed. What does it mean that it's mixed? From this point, they're equal. But later he says that to begin with, which is the matter of coarseness, only that it had a correction. Now this correction is lacking. It turns out reflected light. This reflected light is only the force of the reflected light. If there was reflected light, the light would not depart. Only the force of overcoming is lacking to him now. This is a side matter, this fourth kind. The goof is just telling us that it receives in the goof. We distinguish a vessel, we need to know it, and therefore there's not yet a kli, a vessel. He's not distinguished as a garment and a vessel. The fifth kind is the minute illumination of direct light poured below tabu, and which is called female light. It too is called reflected light. In page 239, he says, the essence of the light illuminates through the anterior, meaning what is anterior in spirituality? A place where the light can illuminate is called face or anterior, meaning from peh to tabu. From peh to tabu. From tabu to down, what does Malchut say? I do not want to receive. If it receives, it will be in order to receive. If so, she does not want to receive. She's giving back the light. It is said, for this sake, where she reflects the light, she wants equivalence of form, which is considered the light of chasadim. The illumination from direct light illuminates there, the illumination of Chokhmah. Hence, from Ta'amim below, reflected light is considered even this illumination of direct light, which is also called reflected light, since it's only illumination. So two things can be said. One, the reflected light of the Rosh in phase 2, which is clothing. This reflected light clothes and departs into two parts. One, the third kind, which remains in him only in permanence. And 4, which expands from peh to tabu, which is the receiver. From 5, the illumination is diminished and expands within the reflected light. Also, the illumination of direct light is called reflected light. Here we can understand that there are only signs. Allegory. The Rav says in every degree, we distinguish the Tamim and Nikudot. Tamim are considered the first expansion prior to the beating of interior and surrounding lights. This is distinguished as direct light and mercy. Whereas later, after the beating between interior and surrounding, where the screen is refined, and only phase 3, phase 2 illuminate, etc., which are called nekudot, this light is called reflected light. The abundance comes from above. There is a coupling by striking of direct light and reflected light. Nevertheless, we call it reflected light. Why does the Ari say so? Because now, during the departure, which is called the return of the lights to their emanator, reflecting lights. So I see that the direct light actually is called reflected light. But in this manner, we can understand here what the fifth kind is. The minute illumination of direct light poured below tabu, and which is called female light. Why is it called female light? Where he says, I do not want to receive, and as long as he says, I don't want to receive, why doesn't he want to receive? Because he cannot aim. An illumination illuminates there from what? From what was above tabu. There's an illumination that illuminates there. This illumination illuminates, and this illumination is also called reflected light. And this is the female light, where he says female light receives and does not bestow. The Gemara brings this way, and it says, a male that is born, his face is to below. The female that is born, her face is upward. If he is like that today, I don't know. That's what our sages say. It turns out the male with his face downwards to bestow, the female with face up downwards to receive, and the vessel that receives does not bestow. Now, when we want to explain here, we receive what she is given. But if it were to bestow to herself, no. I am not talking about bestowing to others. To bestow to herself, no. This is discerned as Malchut, which is called, it's not from herself, not from her own discernments, but from what her husband gives her. This is called receiving, and I'm bestowing. So this illumination is also called by reflected light. But it's direct light. The sixth kind is the reflected light, ending each and every sefirah of the 10 sefirot from the tabur downward until it ends the entire partzuf. As we speak of reflected light, there's reflected light from tabu upwards. He says that I do want to receive. Why? Because I want to bestow. Whereas the reflected light from tabu downwards, what does he say? I don't want to receive because I cannot receive in order to bestow. This is called reflected light of the sixth kind. It's simple. It's simple.